once I did that and just the reception was crazy, I knew that, okay, I can't let this couch like sit in the crib. I literally have to take this out because so many people are excited for it. Not only do they want to sit on it, but they also like have their own stories that they can tell. And then I'm like just thinking about it, like what better way to invite people to tell stories than for them to be on like a comfortable couch. Man, honestly, people love most about this couch is probably the buttons, and just how at every turn of this piece, you get the interpretation of a watermelon. I took the airbrush, to the couch to give it the stripes. Like these buttons are cool, and people are they love to see how art, like what my mind is doing with art. They love to see like what I'll aspire to next. And that's interesting as well, just because when I quit my job about like a year and a half ago, I had no idea that was going to lead me to making a watermelon couch, but that's exactly the kind of freedom that I needed to put me in the place to do so. In Mexico City for 2020 February, I was in Mexico City. On display there at like the expo was a sculpture piece that looked like a couch. It looked like a bench. And when I saw that, I was like immediately in love with it. Just like, oh, it looks dope from the aspect of almost pop art style, And so that encouraged me to realize like furniture has always been sculpture, but also it's really just about how we display it, whether you want to be functional or whether you just want to look at it. And so like that gave me my inspiration to be like, all right, I'm gonna take what I do and put it in a form. So the watermelon couch started last year, but prior to its debut, like last June for Juneteenth, I started working with soft sculpture. Like I started creating soft sculpture pieces based off of like my abstract art, like my style of art that I call pedal blocks, which is, geometry with the flows and whatnot. That I wanted to expand on just the cushion approach into like furniture, so to speak. I wanted to make like warped out seats and ships and whatever. And so as I was scaling up to that project, I realized that I had a couch that I could manipulate as well. And so before I got to like the abstract, extravagant kind of shapes, I started with the customization project. And so I knew I wanted to create a new sculpture piece. And I knew that because Juneteenth was coming up and I was participating in an exhibit, that I wanted to make it black. And so as soon as I started thinking about blackness and like what I could flip and interpret, I landed on the watermelon as a concept. Like why is the watermelon black? And so that led me down a rabbit hole, in addition to like preparing to like release this piece. Yeah, so the California trip is going to be exciting because I'm going to visit 5 black watermelon farms in California. And I didn't even know there were 5 black watermelon farms, right? Like being from California, from the Central Valley my whole life, I haven't really gone to farms like that. And so now I'm going to go collect these stories and these narratives from these 5 different farmers in California over the course of a week, maybe 7 to 10 days. And so I'm going to start about an hour north of Sacramento, one farm, then I'm going down to another one in Sacramento. And then there's 2 in Fresno, and then another one east of LA. And so over the course of 7 days, I'm going to be pulling up to these farmers, getting their stories, taking in inspiration from their land, and making art about it, And so the result is a really cool, like, documentary style profile of these farmers, how they got into watermelon farming, what they're doing now, what their business is, and where they want to see it go. we're going to garner more support for them, and build out their businesses. And in doing so, really inspire people to get excited about food and where their food comes from, especially living here in California. I'm going to start a whole new trip where I take the couch starting from Texas on Juneteenth all the way through the South, through the deep South, just connecting with different professionals, whether they're like educators, historians, artists, farmers, activists, like people with some real like intriguing and exciting stories. And as I'm doing so, I'll also be tapping into my own lineage because my family's from the South. Okay, these are the kind of conversations that I'm going to have. There's definitely a food conversation, right? Like how food is being produced, created, sold, like the whole world of food. So that's a conversation. And then there's a second conversation about Black identity and Black history, which is American history, ultimately, and how food was used to shape that, right? And so what my hope is to not only educate and address the racist history of like America and how they weaponize food, but in doing so, what else have they weaponized, And so by collecting these stories, just doing this complete project, I'll be able to replace or contribute replacements towards like the racist history or racist association of Black people in food. And from there, you're like, question, what else has been weaponized against us? If they were able to do it with the watermelon, like, of course they've done it with chicken, you know what I mean? And so there's a liberation aspect of education and storytelling that by hearing these stories and by seeing this journey, we'll be able to like impart and I'll be able to like give to people, as an offering, so to speak. Man, well, there's two forms of support that are kind of like most critical at the moment. And the first one is like essential funding, right? And so whether it's traveling for production, being on the road, post-production with like video editing and whatnot, equipment, the admin work and paying the team. Like right now it's all on the shoestring budget. And so through this fundraiser that I got going for this upcoming month, try to raise seed funding for like 15 to 20K, just to invest not only for the California trip, but also to prepare for the summertime trip, right? And then secondly is the partnership aspect, whether it's partnering from an organizational level where they would like to see this work continued, and then also just on the individual networking level, right? Is because this project is about everyone else to a degree, right? Like it's inviting in that the more people who can participate and the more people that have unique angles and their own opinions will just really blow out what this is supposed to be.